Now, everything old is new again. America's entertainment pop culture talk show with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
You believe in the supernatural?
I don't believe anything without evidence.
I'm Arthur Conan Doyle. This is Harry Houdini.
Are you police officers?
We're working with the police, yes. Death isn't the end.
Never believe what you don't see with your own eyes.
Welcome to Everything Old is New Again. This is Douglas Viviani. We are discussing and continuing our discussion of Houdini and Doyle. That's the Fox show that is in our 10 episode run at present, and hopefully will be renewed. It's a tremendous show. I am here with the rather elementary David Cohen.
Elementary, Maria Watson.
Absolutely. Why do we discuss elementary? What do we care about? What's that all about?
Well, Arthur Conan Doyle was the creator of Sherlock Holmes,
and
as we explored in the last episode of Everything Old is New Again.
As Angelica would put it. And if you didn't hear that, go back to our website. You can catch up on the podcast version of everythingoldisnewagain.biz. And, yes, we're talking about Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, who's the creator of Sherlock Holmes today. He created that character in 1886. It's 130 years
and he
later.
Wasn't born until 1904, which makes it even more amazing.
That's why he's so spiritual. Because he was someone that did believe, we talked about that last week as well, in the spiritualism, and that is examined in the show Houdini and Doyle. But I think it's amazing that it's 130 years later, and we've got two Robert Downey Jr. movies from 2009 and
Sherlock Holmes, yeah.
Right, and then there was A Game of Shadows, which is 2011. You get the BBC series starring Benedict Cumberbatch beginning in 2010. It's
Sherlock called? It's called Sherlock, right?
Sherlock, and it's entering its fourth, they call it fourth season. They skip a couple of years in between, but fourth incarnation there. You've got Elementary, which is airing and entering its fourth season now.
On CBS.
And has been renewed for a fifth. Will be on in 2017. So, I mean, the question, I know it's a typical thing to say, but really, can we solve the mystery of why Sherlock Holmes is still around to this day? And you don't realize he is not only those two shows, but that format is everywhere for the detective murder mystery, no?
It is. I don't know. The guy just created this iconic character who solves mysteries. Did it exist before Sir Arthur Conan Doyle? Was there anyone else writing about mysteries? Or did he actually start the whole thing?
All I have to do is I have to say this to you, Mike. It's very simple.
How do you know about them?
Elementary, my dear Watson.
That's all. It's elementary. I will discuss that with you. I'm glad you asked the question. The idea is this. He did not create the detective murder mystery, he being Arthur Conan Doyle. He perfected it. Who created it? Roll the dice, drum roll. I should have done a drum roll. Who was the author of The Murders in the Rue Morgue, a story from 1841?
I think I read that in school.
Yeah. Edgar Allan Poe.
Poe.
Yes. Genius. That man was an absolute genius. There's another show
so
there.
Why aren't we doing a show on him? Why are we talking about...
We will. Because his character was...
Because he doesn't there's no TV show coming up about him. That's why.
But there will be. I guarantee it. Detective Dupin. He's a French gentleman, was his Sherlock Holmes. He created that character and in the Murders of the Rue Morgue and did 3 other short stories, but that's it. He was immersed in other things, Edgar Allan Poe. But he created this. It's amazing. He was such a genius. He created this masterpiece and walked away from it. And clearly and without hesitation, you could say, and Sir Arthur Conan Doyle did say that his influence to create Sherlock Holmes was the Edgar Allan Poe character in The Murders of the Rue Morgue. Wow. So I think that's very interesting. That's up to me. I don't know. But
definitely.
Now, but also what makes... Now, let's look at Sherlock Holmes himself.
Because I'll tell you one thing.
Yes.
It's the image of Sherlock Holmes, right? It's a unique image of the cap he wore and the pipe, right? You can't, it's handed down from generation to generation. It's like a trademark.
Right.
And that's ingrained in everyone's, thinking when it comes to mysteries. You think of Sherlock Holmes. That's just the way it is.
Now, but why? Now, yes, but one step beyond that. I mean, that's true, but that's...
It's true, but...
that is very true, but it's superficial in a way. In other words,
thank you.
there's more to it than that. In that, if you have ever read any of the 56 short stories or the 4 novels created by Arthur Conan Doyle,
they're great.
And why? Do you remember reading? I mean, it's a long
yeah,
time ago.
sure. Well, I remember reading them not too long ago because my son read them for school. A handful of them, like The Hound of Baskerville and all that, a few others like that. But they were really well written. They, had a really good plot to them, and they were not very long stories. So, you could sit down and in one night go through a mystery. It was great.
And Edgar Allan Poe created and talked about the detective story and said there are a lot of rules to it, how to create it and what to do with it to make the reader interested. But here's the thing he said, and this is why it works. And I don't know why it wasn't created before Edgar Allan Poe. It's really funny. That's the creation of something out of nothing. That's why I think it's such genius, because until then, Shakespeare and every writer up to that day had never thought of doing a murder mystery. So I don't know. I think that's very interesting. He said, listen, you got to play fair with the audience. If there's a murder to be solved, and that's, of course, the creation of the story, it's the whole point of it. So, yes, when there's a murder to be solved, lay out and make sure in your creation, your work, that all the clues, however you present them, are there. So that when the reader reads the result and he sees the detective solve the problem, they can say, "Oh man, I should have thought of that. Oh, it was right there."
There's no information that's being withheld. In other words, it was not fair to the reader to not know.
Exactly. Unlike Agatha Christie, if you've ever been a fan of or read Agatha Christie, I'm sorry to say, and I was a huge fan back in the day. I read one after the next. Every single one of them is so disturbing, because as you get to the end and read the end and the solution to the problem, there's something, oh, by the way, there's something they pull out of the hat that was not presented to you during the body of the story. Now, again,
but they were very successful, though, right?
Yes, but they broke the rules. And but I personally, I prefer, listen, as Edgar Allan Poe says, play fair and fast with the audience.
But the other brilliant thing was that Sherlock Holmes himself was a very interesting character. He was kind of quirky, and he had Watson, the sidekick, which, their interplay also had a lot to do with the story, oftentimes. And made it even that more interesting. So it wasn't necessarily just a story. It was about Sherlock and Watson.
Yes. Also, he was an expert boxer.
Was that better? Was that less superficial?
Yes, I like that.
Good.
He was an expert boxer and swordsman and a master of disguise. He used modern-day techniques like fingerprints, shoe prints, gunpowder residue, examining the human body like with using an autopsy. All these things were cutting edge back in the day when this character was created. None of that stuff was. It was like CSI today, let's say. It was cutting edge technology. So that was another reason.
Right.
But the use of logic and describing, Watson is integral to this, because he's everyman. He's not supposed to be a jerk. He's a doctor. He's supposed to be decent.
He's like you to me. You're Watson to my Sherlock Holmes.
It depends on the topic. Yes, I would agree with that, and vice versa. I think we all. That's another thing. I think we honestly
can identify with Watson.
Can identify with both, because there's always something you're expert, if you want to call it that, in.
That's true.
That you're teaching someone else about, and you don't mind. But you wouldn't want to teach someone that's not going to be able to get you, so to speak. So Watson works because he's a doctor. He's intelligent. He's just not attuned to the logic and the observations that are made by Sherlock Holmes. That's what I think.
He was the only one that could connect the dots like that and make those keen observations. Well, actually, two things, right? He's making the keen observations. He's able to connect the dots to come to the conclusion, and that no one else was able to do that.
Exactly. Something like make it so simple as like you've got a little bit of donut around your mouth, and you've got a white hair on your shoulder or something like that, and you can say that you were at Dunkin' Donuts with your girlfriend. Anyway, we'll be back on Everything Old is New Again.
Did you see me?
The Sherlock theme. Let's get into this in more detail. Everything Old is New Again. Yeah, I didn't want to give it away that you had a girlfriend that you took to Dunkin' Donuts. That's a little awkward, but I have to show what my what would you call analytical skills before the audience.
What's more realistic, that I'd be at a Dunkin' Donuts or that I'd have a girlfriend? What's more plausible?
What's more of a stretch? The Dunkin' Donuts is more of a stretch.
I'll take that as a compliment. I don't know how my wife would feel about it, but yeah.
I think that's something that Sherlock Holmes did in every episode that you kind of go, wow, you know what? I could kind of do that myself in real life if I really took the time.
That's where Encyclopedia Brown came in, because, as a kid, and although, it was set up so that you should also be able to solve the crime too. Even, reading those Encyclopedia Browns to my son, I, as an adult, still couldn't connect the dots on that one. I was like, oh, it was right in front of me. Why didn't I see that?
But those were great.
Yeah, they were.
Was it Sobel was the author?
I think so.
He died in 2012, and he was 87 years old at the time.
Wow.
Where he wrote almost to the end, those Encyclopedia Browns. It's a real talent to write.
Yes.
These things.
And not only to write, but to write at a child's reading level.
And then have the child want to read it again because they could have gotten it.
Right.
And you know what? At some point, maybe you should do one that's easy that they could get. I don't know if he ever did that or not.
I remember as a kid, I did get a couple, but no, most of them now.
But it's all about observational, and if you lay it out there and are fair to the audience, as Edgar Allan Poe described, you're going to be successful because the audience at least is going to kick themselves and say, hey, you know what? Wow, I should have gotten that right.
I had the facts. I just didn't put it together. Right.
All right, we'll be back on Everything Old is New again to continue our discussion of all things Sherlock Holmes.
You're listening to Everything Old is New Again, America's entertainment pop culture talk show, with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
I must congratulate you, Mr. Holmes. You're far more clever than I thought.
Thank you, Mrs. Courtney. Praise from you is indeed gratifying.
Holmes, you all right?
Perfectly, thank you, old fellow, but I think this gentleman on the floor requires some medical attention. We will see that he looks his best, when he's hanged.
There you go. That's Basil Rathbone, and we're going way back to the 1939 to 46 series of Sherlock Holmes. But this character, I think, to me, is the epitome of the presentation in movies or television of Sherlock Holmes.
I thought Robert Downey Jr. did a pretty good job, though.
See, he was good, but I think his script was so good. I think the character that he presented was different from what was presented in the movies, but not from what Arthur Conan Doyle did. So you might be right, because he was an expert boxer, master of disguise, and swordsman. He did all three of those things great. It
was more true to the books, I think,
which is weird because you wouldn't think, right?
Because I don't think a lot of people retain that. I think you're right. When you were a kid and you were watching these Basil Rathbone movies, you had a different image of Sherlock Holmes than you did when you.
That's it.
Right. When you were reading the book, I remember going, "Really? He was able to box? I don't remember that."
Yeah.
And I think in the modern movies they did that. You're right.
Actually, it was so amazing the way they did it because his intellect was so keen. Supposedly, right? He was a great boxer because he was thinking 3 punches ahead
of
every time.
Right. That was really
cool. In slow motion and all. So I think that's really captures this character because he wasn't this lame brain or this. What would you say? But somebody that's not physical.
Right. He wasn't just this stiff, oh, Watson.
Exactly.
I can deduce that,
I like that. Now you got to do that in character. I can give you a script so you can write that out. We should write a Sherlock Holmes.
Instead of just the mumbling?
Yes.
All right.
Okay. But I would say this, that when it came out, do you remember in 2009, the first one, the reviews were not that great because, we should look it up. I should have printed some out, but the reviews were, he's not Sherlock Holmes enough. He's separating himself from the Conan, or what would you call it, the canon, up to date.
Right.
And really it wasn't. They went back to the original take on it. He was a physical guy. He's pretty cool. Let's listen to little Robert Downey Jr. and in
Judd Law.
Mr. Holmes.
Jude Law.
Yes.
I'm sure
I've
a mystery as to where you are and who I am.
As to where I am, I was admittedly lost for a moment between Charing Cross and Holborn, but I was saved by the bread shop on Saffron Hill, the only baker to use a certain French glaze on their loaves, a Brittany sage. After that, the carriage forked left and right, a telltale bump of the Fleet conduit. And as to who you are, that took every ounce of my not inconsiderable experience. The letters on your desk are addressed to Sir Thomas Rotherham, Lord Chief Justice. That'd be your official title.
I mean, it's hard to figure that out. He was taken, put a hood over him from one location to another, and that was the scene. He was just saying, it was no big deal. I couldn't see. I felt the left turns, the right turns. I smelled the donuts and so forth, and so I know exactly where I am. And by the way, I know who you are because on your desk you get a letter addressed to you. You dope. He was pretty. But he was so attuned to that character. Robert Downey really did, and Guy Ritchie, who directed it, really. I don't know. They tapped into what should be, I think, humbly saying, should be the Sherlock Holmes character. More physical, more, fun.
Yeah, I agree. So, and that was on the heels of Iron Man when that came out, too. So he was riding high.
Yes. I wonder if they're going to do another one. It's been about 6
a while,
years
right?
now. So 5 years. So
they've done two.
They've done two. The last one was 2011. It was very well done, and even when what I liked was when they solved the mystery, they went back and they filmed what he was saying.
Yeah, that was cool
from a different angle. So you actually saw. I should have done. They did that. They were fair with you. I should have seen that bullet or whatever the heck it was. I should have seen that piece of evidence, that clue. Why didn't I? And it made sense because a lot of these you get lost in the shuffle. You go, it was okay, but I don't.
He's explaining it, blah blah blah. I don't really understand, but okay, I guess
yeah, exactly. It doesn't matter, Also. Now, Sherlock is on BBC TV, started in 2010, it's entering its 4th season now. It's almost like a Columbo type of thing where they do like two or three.
Have you seen any of them?
Months.
Are they available?
Yeah, Benedict Cumberbatch is tremendous. You can see it on BBC. It's tremendous.
Come, Watson, come. The game is afoot.
I demand you speak. Who are you?
The name is Sherlock Holmes, and the address is 221B Baker Street.
Now he's I don't know if you're familiar with him. He was Connan in Star Trek. The recent one. He's really tremendous.
He's a great actor,
and it's a modern he's in the modern world. He's in modern London. It's not like they don't come and put him back in Victoria.
They're not talking to Watson like this, you see, and deducing and spying
but he does all the stuff. And he's such a strong actor that he really brings out Sherlock in a way that we're discussing Robert Downey did. But he's he's more English, he's a real English actor. Right. He's more English refined. But and he's very stoic and logical. But and this is true Sherlock Holmes, when he gets on the trail of something, he becomes very emotional. Let's get going. We got to go, Watson. And he's very physical. So he's really cool. One that, let's take a look at the Elementary show that's in the U.S. that has a female Watson, which I don't object to, but it changes the dynamic. There's a little romance kind of going on there. It's not. It's the tension. And but I don't know. Let's listen to that and talk about that in a minute.
My consultancy with the NYPD has come to an end. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. You just haven't looked closely yet.
You want me to punch you, right? Your father said he'd be here. What is wrong with him?
Dad never shows.
May I come in? You've made a mess. I'm here to fix it.
You look as spry as ever. My compliments to the virgins whose blood you bathe in.
So there's Sherlock Holmes talking to his dad. We've extended things in this show. Again, Watson's a female, and she's very strong, which I understand the character being, but she's too strong. Honestly, she's overbearing and treats Sherlock Holmes like a dope so much of the time. You hear her, you want me to punch you and stuff like that. I don't know. I think they've strayed, to me, too far from what was the written word.
It's a successful show, though.
It is. It's been picked up for its 5th season. Also, you heard there, the dad is the actor John Noble from Fringe, who is tremendous if you watch Fringe. And he's now coming in as Sherlock Holmes' dad. I think they did that because he's a known actor. I'm not saying he's that known, but he's an actor he's bringing some gravitas to this. He's going to be around all season, and maybe from this point on, depends, to add an element that's missing in this show. Because I don't mean to be cruel, but I don't think the actor that's playing Sherlock Holmes is that strong in this series. That's just my opinion. Right. And so it's not carrying the day the way the BBC.
So they're bringing his dad in
to kind of punch it up a little bit, which is sad. But maybe it'll work.
Somebody's got to punch him, whether it's a dad or Watson.
But it might work. I mean, he's done something, and previously, now he's no longer a detective with the New York City Police Department, and he's looking for a job, and he's really gone astray with it. But what does work is they still keep this business of the powers of observation, being fair with the audience, and at the end, you should have seen what was this eventual solution.
Right.
So I don't know.
Okay.
I'm not a huge fan of it, but obviously someone is, so I'm not putting it down. It's there. Again, it's amazing to me, isn't it, that this show, or I should say even more importantly, this product, this elementary, my dear Watson, this Sherlock Holmes is still around. Yeah. And look how strong it is. Those three I just played for you are modern things that are a product that is out there right now and very commercially successful. So why is that?
I don't know, Watson. We'll have to inspect it further to see what the attraction is.
All right, let's take a look back. Go back to square one with Houdini and Doyle. The battle they have between science and spiritualism.
Every religion for centuries has told us that death isn't the end.
What a complete and utter load of crap. I can handle this case myself without help from a writer and a magician.
Can't expect a miracle if you don't have faith.
Houdini and Doyle.
So I think
So Doyle's the guy with the British accent, and Houdini's the guy that sounds American.
Well, he's from New York.
Yeah. He's a Jew.
He's a Jew.
Yeah.
He came in from, what was it, Poland, or another country, I forget where he was from, but they settled into New York City, and that's where it was his home.
His father was a rabbi, I think.
Yes.
It was, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think he started out in Wisconsin and then moved
to New York.
Yeah, to New York. So
a few blocks up from where I live.
Is that's pretty cool.
It is.
I wonder if there's any like remnants of him living there.
I actually looked into this, and the house that he grew up in is gone. It's it's a modern building now.
Yeah, so there's really nothing. It's a shame.
Sadly,
yeah. Anyway, we'll be back on Everything Old is New again right after the commercial break to examine the mystery, and I'll have a few mysteries for you and see if you can solve them. Everything Old is New again.
Everything Old is New Again is sponsored by the law office of Douglas Viviani. Douglas Viviani has been providing quality legal service for over 26 years. We're a general practice firm and can handle any legal matter you may have for a reasonable fee. If you're involved in a car accident, starting a business, planning your estate, or need a criminal attorney, please call 631-681-1910 or email us at vivianilaw@aol.com for a free consultation. Get the justice you deserve. Contact the law office of Douglas Viviani at vivianilaw@aol.com. When you're seeking to change your career, apply for a promotion, or trying to find a job, your resume is the first thing that's seen that represents you to a potential employer. Make sure your resume makes a clear, concise, and professional impression of who you are so you can get that job interview. Send your current resume to resumedrinc@aol.com for a free online review. You'll receive a timely reply with a reasonable quote to properly prepare your resume. Let them make sure you have a resume that will get you noticed. Send your resume or questions to resumedrinc@aol.com.
Now, back to America's entertainment pop culture talk show. Everything Old is New Again with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
My initial approach was far too narrow. When Blackwood invited me to Pentonville Prison, he suggested I widen my gaze, and at minimum I have done just that. In fact, I may well have reconciled thousands of years of theological disparity.
How do you like that? That's Sherlock Holmes himself, presented by Robert Downey Jr. This is Douglas Viviani on Everything Old is New Again with the elementary David Cohen.
Yes.
It's actually kind of condescending elementary. That means you're not too sharp.
Yeah, I've been thinking that, but that's okay.
I just figured
I know you didn't mean it.
No. What I do mean is to say that I'm very happy and proud to present KWQQ. They call it the WQ. Double Q. It's in Farmington, Iowa. We are now on board.
Yay!
Their schedule, and that's another show or station that's carrying our show, and we are very excited to be with them every, get this now, Saturday morning at 5 a.m.
I'm up at Saturday at 5, man. I am up.
Listen, that's farm country. I wouldn't be surprised if that's like prime time, right?
Definitely.
It's breakfast time.
Definitely.
We are right after the UK-USA rock and soul connection, and we lead into the, Breakfast with the Beatles.
Wow. Right, we opened for the Beatles?
We finally made it. We're very happy to be there at 1610 a.m. and 106.3 FM.
When we do our victory tour across the country, we are definitely stopping there.
Bright and early.
Meet everybody in the town.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Absolutely. So it's a great place to be, and I'm very happy to be there. Now, let's take a look. That was Sherlock Holmes, Robert Downey Jr., describing, there's always that scene at the end of all these mysteries, solving it, putting it all together. So that kind of inspired me to see if I could present to you and our engineer, Mike Amodio. We're going to describe, or I'm going to describe for the two of you, some little, minute mysteries. And let's see, you can ask me for clues and see if you can solve a mystery as we sit here. But I think before I do that, the elementary David Cohen has one for us.
I've been waiting to do this for a long time. All right, so here it is. Listen closely, people at home.
Did you write this, or, where did it come from?
Totally original.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Douglas and David are sitting in the studio. Douglas gets up and leaves the room. The person remaining in the room will always be Douglas. How is that possible?
So Douglas and Dave, say it again.
Douglas and Dave, we're alone in the studio right now.
Right.
Douglas gets up and leaves the room. The person remaining in the room will always be Douglas. How is that possible?
Does David have a middle name, Douglas?
No.
And is there more than two people in the room?
Nope.
Douglas and... Well, because I'm leaving during a commercial break or a break in the action and the show is still playing?
No.
My voice is still here?
No.
All right, so it's going to be... I have no idea.
Okay, here it is. So, Douglas and David are in the room. Douglas gets up and leaves, right?
Yeah.
The person remaining in the room is me. However, I am Douglas. I am without Doug.
Wow. I actually like that.
Is that cool?
Very nice.
Very nice.
I actually said it a little wrong. That I should have said one of us leaves, and whoever is left, that person will always be Douglas. So if I left, you're Douglas. If you left, I am Doug.
Either way,
left.
it still works.
All right, it still works.
You were fair to the listener. They actually could have gotten that had they...
I followed the rules.
Very nice.
All right.
All right, Edgar Allan
Yes.
Poe. Let's give you a try, one of these, and see how they are. A body is found in the middle of a field with a ring on his finger. How did he die? There's a ring on his finger. It's not the standard ring. It's just, it's a ring. Don't think of it as like, a wedding ring or anything like that. What do you think? Any questions? You can ask me questions.
How did he die?
How did he die? There's a body in the middle of a field with a ring on it.
He was hung.
On his index finger, let's say.
Oh. I was going to say he was hung.
Someone stole his wedding ring and...
Nope. He's rather been flattened out. So let's give you some hints as we go along.
Flattened out.
Yes. He's left an impression in the ground.
Oh, wow.
All right, well, what do you do when you when you have to pull for the parachute? Right? There's a ring on your finger, so what happened in this particular case is he pulled the ripcord, but the parachute didn't open. Is that fair? That's kind of fair. You get a connotation of the ring that it's like a wedding ring, so I kind of wanted to take that out of it. So
just the ring, there was nothing attached to the ring?
No, the ring, because when the parachute doesn't work, you got the ring and the parachute didn't deploy.
I see.
Got it.
Okay.
Give it a
Did
shot.
you make that up, or
No.
did you?
Nope.
Okay.
This one's pretty good. You got to think about this now.
All right.
I'll emphasize some things. Two men go to visit a female friend. She offers them some soft drinks, which they accept.
Wait. I already lost you. Go back. Sorry.
Two men go visit a female friend. She offers them soft drinks, which they accept.
Okay.
The drinks are identical in every way. One of the men dies after drinking his drink, but the other man does not. Why did the one man not die? Thinking about that now.
Identical drinks.
Identical drinks.
Identical drinks.
Yes.
One dies after drinking it. The other one does not because he didn't die because he didn't drink it.
They both drank.
Oh.
Give you a hint. There are ice cubes in the glass. And one man drinks very fast and one man doesn't drink fast.
Oh.
The poison is in the ice cubes?
Exactly. Poison's in the ice cubes. And the one that drank fast didn't have any poison. The one that lingered, the poison fell out or melted out of the ice cube. And
without knowing there were ice cubes in it, that would be a tough one, too.
Well, I gave it to you. No?
Yeah, but not initially.
Well, I'm doing what I can with the
Did you make that one up?
No. I want to go home, says a man.
That was me.
Yes. But the man in the mask won't let me. Who's the man in the mask? I want to go home.
Catcher.
Yes, Mike, very good.
Nice, Mike.
Really good. That's because he's the sports guy.
Yeah.
But how did that come to you? That was pretty good.
I don't know, because you got to look at like words and certain things. So a certain way.
He's very literal, Mike.
All right, well, that's exact great clue for the next one.
Okay.
Ben tells an officer that his home was robbed the previous night. What seems to be missing from your house, says the officer. As far as I know, nothing, Ben replies. How does Ben know his home or he was robbed?
Because he's talking about he robbed the officer's house.
Nope.
Oh, come on. Yes, he did.
I'll give you some hints. Something was definitely stolen.
Okay.
There was no evidence left behind. Nothing was missing from the house. But everything Ben owned was stolen. What kind of house did Ben live in? What? Getting close? What kind of house? That can be stolen.
A trailer home.
There you go. A mobile home was stolen. Yeah. You don't go for that?
No, okay, I got it. Yeah.
I'll bite.
That was good. That was my favorite, I think.
All right. Yeah, because
the catcher was the home thing was gonna be my favorite until Mike answered it.
All right, 45 seconds for the next one. As a burglar reaches for something in a mantle, he accidentally knocks over a clock. It falls to the floor, breaks, and stops. The next morning, however, the police aren't able to determine what time the robbery took place. Why?
It was a liquid clock?
Close, not liquid.
Digital clock.
Digital clock. Because when you...
Come on.
Have
Dave.
no... Dave, come on. Catch up.
I'm very elementary.
21st century here. All right, so we had some fun with some mysteries there. It's fun to get going.
Of those mysteries, how many were original?
They all
Just
were...
the one.
Just the one.
original written by you or me, though.
Correct.
Yeah. Huh.
And which was the best?
I think the original one.
You might be right. On Everything Old is New Again, let's tune in and listen to a little of the Star Trek theme. Why are we playing that? That mystery will be solved when we return on Everything Old is New Again. All right, I have one more. While you have time. Let's see if you get this one. This is kind of interesting. Robbie goes into a restaurant. He orders a deli sandwich and a Coca-Cola for lunch. For his lunch. Afterward, he pays his bill, tips his waitress, and goes outside. He slowly takes in his surroundings. The sky is black. The city streets are deserted. What happened? Nothing supernatural happened.
I don't know. He fell asleep?
The man is on his lunch break.
Oh, he works a night shift.
There you go. There you go. His night shift.
I was going to say he's in Alaska.
So sometimes you really... that's right. You really got to think
counts.
outside the box for some of these.
Yeah.
You know? Here's one off the top of my head. I remember this one as a kid. An egg usually takes about 10 minutes to hard boil, right? So-and-so is hard boiling an egg, and it takes 45 minutes. Why? Any ideas? And it's your presumption of what an egg is what really gets you. You're thinking of the small egg.
Right.
But if you really think about it, there are other kinds of eggs. Like an ostrich egg is huge.
So that's going to take longer to boil.
That's going to take 45 minutes to hard boil an ostrich egg.
Huh.
So you got to kind of, it's there for you, but like the one with the sports was in Mike's
wheelhouse,
because you're a sports guy, you're a sports host, here at LI News Radio in the mornings on Saturday and Sunday.
Sunday.
And so that's within your, it's kind. I don't know. If
you gotta kind of be able to relate to what the thing is. I don't know anything about eggs. So
right. But what about the clock? You got the clock pretty good. You must have one of those at home, maybe.
Yeah.
Like it's some of those.
I have a clock at home.
Yeah, right. We'll be back after this on Everything Old is New.
I'm elementary.
This is Everything Old is New Again, America's entertainment pop culture talk show with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
Universal presents The 7% Solution, Nicholas Meyer's best-selling mystery from the personal memoirs of Dr. John H. Watson, revealing for the first time the vile and destructive habit that almost destroyed the world's greatest detective. Watson! The true identity of Sherlock Holmes' arch-nemesis, Professor James Moriarty, and the extraordinary circumstances surrounding the hitherto unknown affair has come to be known as the adventure of the 7% Solution.
Welcome back to Everything Old is New Again. The 7% Solution was a novel written in the 70s, I believe 76, by Nicholas Meyer, or Mayer, M-E-Y-E-R would be Mayer, right? And it was a Sherlock Holmes book that spoke about his addiction to the then legal drug of cocaine that was in the novels, and what effect it had upon him later on in life and so forth. And I'm going to present that to you as a connection, Star Trek connection alert here. There's a connection between Star Trek, Nicholas Meyer being the focal point of that, and Sherlock Holmes. Any ideas? You ever heard of this fellow, Nicholas Meyer?
No, I haven't, Douglas.
Well, didn't you hear about him last episode?
Yes, I heard about him last episode, yes.
And Sherlock, what was he? What did he do with regard to Star Trek? He was the author of and writer of?
He was the author of The Next Generation.
No, he did
he was not the author of The Next Generation.
It's right there.
It's right there in front of me, and
yes.
I'm going to read it to you now. It is as follows.
The Wrath of Khan.
The Wrath of Khan is what he wrote, Douglas. Yes. It was right there in front of you.
Yes, he co-wrote The Voyage Home with Leonard Nimoy.
He also co-wrote The Voyage Home with Leonard Nimoy.
And directed and co-wrote, The Undiscovered Country.
The Undiscovered Country was another... piece of work that he co-wrote.
Yes, was to...
I'm one step ahead of you.
One step behind, I think. Let's listen to also, you talk about Next Generation, the Sherlock Holmes persona made its way all the way through to the 24th century in the character Data on Star Trek
We can
Next
learn
Generation.
something from non-disclosure?
Indubitably, my good woman. Sherlock Holmes, indubitably. Data has been studying him. As Holmes would have pointed out, during the time in question, something was afoot. It's elementary, my dear Riker.
There you go. So
there you go. The Star Trek reference.
Star Trek reference, and I think it's amazing that again, 100+ years later, more than that, this character was created in late 1800s. 1886.
And that happened in, what, the year 2400?
2407.
So 500 years later.
Yeah, we're peering into the future. But also, now back to Nicholas Meyer. He created The Undiscovered Country. He actually co-wrote it, I should say, and directed it. And he put this line in there. I thought it was very interesting. Mr. Spock saying this.
An ancestor of mine maintained that if you eliminate the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth.
That's the inimitable and much missed Leonard Nimoy as Mr. Spock in The Undiscovered Country. Did you recognize that quote at all? Do you have any idea what that's about?
No.
And so that's ancestor he's talking about, and he's half human. Fictionally speaking, quite possibly could have been Sherlock Holmes. And I'll tell you why. Listen to this. We're going to hear the new Spock, and we're going to hear the new Sherlock Holmes discuss or talk about or maybe even say the same exact line.
Watson, how often have I said to you, when you have eliminated the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth? It applies now.
If you eliminate the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth.
Once you've ruled out the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be true.
Obviously a famous quote from Sherlock Holmes that Spock mentions in The Undiscovered Country, written by a self-professed expert or fan of Sherlock Holmes, Nicholas Meyer himself, who co-wrote that and directed that movie. And he says Mr. Spock's ancestor, basically, is Sherlock Holmes.
Right.
I just think that's very interesting.
Yes,
very
you've
cool.
successfully hammered that point home. Hammered and hammered and hammered.
One other point. Sherlock, the BBC series.
And he continues.
His star is Benedict Cumberbatch, who was Khan.
No!
Yes.
No!
Was Khan in Star Trek Into the Darkness, which is the latest incarnation. And listen to what, he presents himself in a very Sherlock Holmesian manner in this clip. You'll love this.
Mr. Spock, give me my crew.
If I do so, I have no guarantee that you will not destroy the Enterprise.
Well, let's play this out logically then, Mr. Spock. Firstly, I will kill your captain to demonstrate my resolve. Then, if yours holds, I will have no choice but to kill you and your entire crew. I will target your life support systems located behind the aft nacelle. And after every single person aboard your ship suffocates, I will walk over your cold corpses to recover my people. Now, shall we begin?
I mean, what an actor, huh? I mean, really, you're a fan or not, you're captivated by him talking there, are you not? I'm just saying that. I don't know.
Was that Spock?
No, that's Sherlock Holmes gone bad. If Sherlock Holmes in the mirror universe and turned evil, that's the way he would sound. That was Benedict Cumberbatch, who plays Sherlock Holmes.
Now, you've got a thing for Benedict Cumberbatch.
I have to tell you, we'd love to have that guy on the show.
You have a man crush on him.
On his work, he really is. Yes, all right, I'll say that. Yes,
there's nothing wrong with that.
He's really good at what he does. I admire that
because he's got the Star Trek. He's got everything you look for in a guy.
Yes.
He's into Star Trek. He's acted on Star Trek. He's into Sherlock Holmes. He's acted on Sherlock Holmes.
He uses that cold logic, just the way Holmes does, to solve a problem or approach a problem. And he's talking to Mr. Spock, who was also very logical. That was a battle of wits that Mr. Spock won as a result of,
as usual,
his superior intellect.
Right, the Vulcan intellect.
Yes, he got a little help from the original Mr. Spock, if you didn't see that movie. Might want to take a look at it. It's good. They're doing a new one. I don't know if you know that.
Another one?
It's coming out
soon?
This summer, called Beyond.
Nice.
So we'll see what happens there. But back to it, Sherlock Holmes. My point is that I could have picked out a lot of different pop culture shows that have dipped into the pie or taken a piece of the pie from Sherlock Holmes. I think it's very interesting that here it is 120 years later, and this character's in movies, he's in television, he's got television shows, 2 television shows going simultaneously right now.
Do you think
it's unbelievable?
Do you think that Houdini and Sir Arthur Conan Doyle would ever have imagined that they would still be popular 125 years later?
I can't. I would suggest they would hope that, but they would not ever imagine it in any way, shape, or form. Especially they didn't even know about, barely knew about radio.
Right? Exactly.
And that's it. Didn't envision anything else.
How could they have? Right? It didn't
silent
exist.
Movies was it. So silent. So what would they think? Oh, silent movies going to survive.
We're going to be silent movie stars 125 years from now.
No way.
That's what they're going to be saying about us in 125. Do you think Doug and David ever thought that they would be still popular 125 years later?
On Everything Old is New Again, the next generation, something like that. The next incarnation. I would think that we would not, but I'm going to.
And they had no concept of the entire concept of schmaguglis was not existed. Have they ever thought they'd ever be on schmaguglis?
And the fact that every school child listens to their show as a history lesson as to what it was like to live in the 20th century.
All they had back then was the internet.
It's amazing.
Why am I speaking with a British accent and you're not?
They talked into a microphone, and that's where they got their information from. The Wikipedia was the
prime source of data for Mr. Viviani.
And guess what? He was right 98% of the time.
Except when he did the magic show and he only got 3 out of 9 right. But yet
he was human. He showed his humanity and how interesting and how difficult it is to be Harry Houdini.
And now, through the magic of Schmagugli, we're able to see what they couldn't.
So every school child, we would like you to now take out your sasassia, and we would like you to present an article on your favorite Everything Old is New Again retrospective episode. There are 3,747 of them. Feel free to look on everythingoldisnewagain.biz.
All of equal quality. All interesting.
Except for don't pull up that one where they did the April Fool's trick in the beginning. It didn't go over. Everyone knew that they were playing tricks on themselves.
Yes.
Welcome
Put an
back
A for effort
to Everything Old is New Again. Next week, we will be happy to present some fun and interesting topics of pop culture to you on Everything Old is New Again. Come on back next week. Or you can come on back right now when we finish up the last minutes after David Cohen has taken off his earphones and he's looking for directions on how to get home from here as quickly and efficiently as possible. It is late. Why am I still here?
I thought that was an interesting retrospective look to the future we just did.
We look to the future to see would
like
Everything Old is New Again be new
right
enough to be qualify.
With some future apparatus we know nothing about today.
Yeah, that probably elementary school. What would you say? Like kids are like 8 years old. They'll be so advanced by then. They would listen to our show and take in all of our information.
Imagine if something happened and we were the sole source of American history.
The world would be a better place. There'd be a smile on everyone's face. Come on back to Everything Old is New again. Next week we can discuss more historical topics.
When was Superman born?